In today's video, we're diving into a topic that's been making waves in the news. The American economy is getting ugly. With Warren Buffett and Donald Trump both sounding off on the state of things, it's clear that we're facing some serious challenges. Inflation, tariffs, trade wars. What's really going on behind the scenes? Are we headed for a major downturn, or is there hope for recovery? Stay tuned, because we're breaking it all down. And trust me, you won't want to miss what these two icons have to say about the future of America's economy. When it comes to understanding how our economy works, it's easy to get caught up in all the complex data, political noise, and the latest headlines. But sometimes, the most valuable lessons come from the past. If we look back through history, there's a pattern we can learn from. And some of the most important economic shifts have been shaped by forces that most of us don't even realize are there. For instance, let's talk about tariffs. Many people think of them as just a bump in the road, a small trade policy that gets adjusted every now and then. But when you dig deeper, tariffs are much more than that. In fact, you could argue they're like a shot fired in the middle of a negotiation. Only it's not just a matter of a simple trade dispute. It's an attack on goods. And let's face it, nobody likes paying for a tax on their pockets. You might hear the term tooth fairy thrown around in conversation. But in reality, when it comes to tariffs, the fairy isn't picking up the tab. It's real people who bear the brunt, and over time, those impacts can really add up. Now, if you've been following the economic landscape in recent months, you might have noticed how inflation has crept up. It's not just a passing trend. Inflation is a lot like the tide. It comes and goes, but it tends to leave behind lasting changes. But the truth is, it's not just about how much you pay today. It's about what prices will look like years from now. 10 years from now, prices will probably still be higher. 20 years from now, you bet they'll be higher. That's the reality of living in an economy that's constantly shifting, and it's something we all need to be prepared for. But where are we headed, really? How do we know when this will all end? The simple answer is, there's no end in sight. Prices will keep going up. That's just how it works. You might think this sounds grim, but here's the thing. This pattern is something we've seen before. It's not new. The Great Depression is a perfect example. Back then, even when things were at their absolute worst, people didn't see it as the end of the world. Sure, it was a tough time, but there was a sense that it was just a really bad recession. And like any recession, it would eventually pass. But little did they know that the worst was yet to come. I mean, think about this. The stock market crash of 1929 sent shockwaves across the country. People lost everything. But when the market rebounded just a few months later, many thought the worst was over. However, things didn't really get back to normal for another 2 decades. Imagine being a person who had invested in stocks back then, only to see your money vanish before your eyes. Or even worse, watching a bank fail, losing all your hard-earned savings. That's exactly what happened to millions of Americans. And the truth is, if we didn't have the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, things might have been a whole lot worse. The FDIC wasn't just an institution. It was a lifeline for people who had been burned by the banking system, giving them the reassurance that their savings were safe. Think about that for a second. If the FDIC had existed during the Great Depression, it would have completely changed the way people experienced the crash. Instead of losing everything, they would have had the peace of mind that comes with knowing their money is protected. This is one of those little-known lessons that came from the Depression. Out of the ashes of financial ruin, the FDIC emerged as a safeguard, protecting future generations from the same fate. Fast forward to the 1950s. The economy was recovering, and the country was slowly starting to heal. But even then, people still had the scars from the Depression. When the stock market finally hit the levels it had reached back in 1929, many people were scared. They wondered, is this a repeat of history? Are we about to fall off a cliff again? This fear wasn't just in the minds of everyday people. It was on the minds of politicians and business leaders too. In fact, in 1955, when the Dow Jones Industrial Average reached 400, It sparked an investigation into whether the country was heading toward another stock market collapse. Senator J. William Fulbright, chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, convened a special hearing to discuss the issue. Even with the market still recovering, people were nervous. They weren't sure if the American economy was as strong as it seemed. And when you look back at the Great Depression and the turmoil it caused, it's easy to see why people were so afraid.
But then something happened. The economy kept growing, and by the 1960s, the American people had regained their confidence. They had seen firsthand that the country was capable of bouncing back, no matter how bad things got. And as time went on, it became clear. The American economy was incredibly resilient. It had faced some of the darkest times in history, yet it had always come out stronger on the other side. The Great Depression, World War II, and other economic crises all tested the American spirit. But despite the struggles, the American economy showed its true strength. This is where the real lesson lies: belief in America. Through the ups and downs, the one thing that has always held true is that the American people believe in their country's ability to adapt, grow, and innovate. Even when the world seemed to be crumbling, Americans kept pushing forward. And that's the kind of resilience that has fueled decades of growth and prosperity. But let's not fool ourselves. Trade has always been a tricky subject. The benefits of trade can be hard to see. You don't always notice how much cheaper your clothes, electronics, or even food are because of international trade. But the negatives, those are in your face. When jobs are lost, when factories close, those are real, tangible losses. It's easy to understand the hurt when a steel plant in Youngstown, Ohio shuts down, or when a textile factory in New Bedford, Massachusetts is forced to close its doors. People lose their jobs, and suddenly they're stuck trying to figure out how to make ends meet. Trade has always been a balancing act. On one hand, it brings cheaper goods and services to consumers. On the other hand, it displaces workers and industries. This is why trade policies can be so contentious. The benefits are widespread, but they're invisible to most people. Meanwhile, the costs are front and center for those who lose their jobs. So, what's the solution? How do we make trade work for everyone? The answer isn't simple. It's not just about opening up markets and hoping for the best. It's about understanding that trade has winners and losers, and being honest about it. Politicians especially need to do a better job of explaining the bigger picture. If we don't, people will continue to focus on the immediate pain without seeing the long-term benefits. At the end of the day, we have to take care of those who are hurt by trade. Whether it's retraining programs, financial support, or new job opportunities, we can't leave people behind. Trade has to be a win for everyone, not just for the lucky few. And that's where good policy comes in. It's about making sure the benefits are spread across society, while also acknowledging the real costs that some people have to bear. As for the future of trade and tariffs, the truth is, we've been here before. We've had trade wars, tariffs, and all kinds of economic tensions. And while there's always a lot of noise around these issues, history shows us that eventually we'll find a way through. We might have some bumps along the way, but as long as we keep believing in the strength of our economy, we'll come out stronger on the other side. So, as we look ahead, remember this: America's resilience is its greatest strength. We've faced economic crises before, and we've always bounced back. And while the future is uncertain, one thing is for sure: our ability to adapt and grow will continue to drive our success. The key is to keep pushing forward, keep innovating, and, most importantly, keep believing in the American dream. And that's it for today. We've taken a deep dive into the economy, the impact of trade, and lessons from the past. It's clear that while we face challenges, the resilience of the American economy is unstoppable. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you never miss a new one. We really appreciate your support, and we hope to see you again soon. Until next time.